Lillie Langtry, usually spelled Lily Langtry in the United States, born Emilie Charlotte Le Breton, was celebrated as a young woman of beauty and charm, who later established a reputation as an actress and producer. In May 1877, Lady Sebright invited her to an evening at home, attended by some of the famous artists of the day. Her looks and personality attracted interest, commentary, and invitations from artists and society hostesses. By 1881, she had become an actress and starred in many plays, including She Stoops to Conquer, The Lady of Lyons, and As You Like It, eventually running her own stage production company. In later life she performed dramatic sketches in vaudeville. She was also known for her relationships with noblemen, including the Prince of Wales, the Earl of Shrewsbury, and Prince Louis of Battenberg. She was the subject of widespread public and media interest. Biography. Born as Emilie Charlotte Le Breton, Langtry was the only daughter of the Reverend William Corbett Le Breton and his wife Emilie Davis, who was known for her beauty. They eloped to Gretna Green and in 1842, married at Chelsea. Emilie was born in the rectory of St. Saviour's Parish Church in Jersey where her father was rector and also Dean of Jersey. Emilie the daughter was the sixth of 7 children. All of her siblings were brothers. Francis Corbett Le Breton, William Ingalls Le Breton, Trevor Alexander Le Breton, Maurice Vavasseur Le Breton, Clement Martin Le Breton, and Reginald Le Breton. William was her last surviving brother when she died. One of their ancestors was Richard Le Breton, one of the reputed assassins in 1170 of Thomas Becket. Her French governess was unable to manage her, so Lily was educated by her brother's tutor. This enabled her to achieve a better education than that of most women of her day. Their father was the Dean of Jersey but gained an unsavory reputation because of several extramarital affairs. When his wife Emilie finally left him in 1880, he left Jersey. From Jersey to London . On March 6, 1874, 20-year-old Lily married 30-year-old Irish landowner Edward Langtry, a widower who had been married to Jane Frances. She was the sister of Elizabeth Frances, who had married Lily's brother William. They held their wedding reception at the Royal Yacht Hotel in St. Helier, Jersey. He was wealthy enough to own a yacht, and Lily insisted that he take her away from the Channel Islands. Eventually, they rented an apartment in Eaton Place, Belgravia, London before moving to 17 Norfolk Street off Park Lane. In an interview published in several newspapers in 1882, Lillie Langtry said, It was through Lord Ranelagh, and the painter Frank Miles that I was first introduced to London society. I went to London and was brought out by my friends. Among the most enthusiastic of these was Mr. Frank Miles, the artist. I learned afterwards that he saw me one evening at the theatre, and tried in vain to discover who I was. He went to his clubs and among his artist friends declaring he had seen a beauty, and he described me to everybody he knew, until one day one of his friends met me and he was duly introduced. Then Mr. Miles came and begged me to sit for my portrait. I consented, and when the portrait was finished he sold it to Prince Leopold. From that time I was invited everywhere and made a great deal of by many members of the royal family and nobility. After Frank Miles I sat for portraits to Millais and Burne-Jones, and now Frith is putting my face in one of his great pictures. Lord Ranelagh, a friend of her father and sister-in-law, invited Lillie Langtry to a high society reception, at which she attracted notice for her beauty and wit. In contrast to most women's more elaborate clothing, she wore a simple black dress and no jewelry. Before the end of the evening, Frank Miles had completed several sketches of her that became very popular on postcards. Another guest, Sir John Everett Millais, also a Jersey native, eventually painted her portrait. Langtry's nickname, the Jersey Lily, was taken from the Jersey lily flower, a symbol of Jersey. The nickname was popularized by Millais' portrait, entitled A Jersey Lily. The painting caused great interest when exhibited at the Royal Academy. Langtry was portrayed holding a Guernsey lily in the painting rather than a Jersey lily, as none of the latter was available during the sittings. She also sat for Sir Edward Poynter and is depicted in works by Sir Edward Burne-Jones. She became much sought after in London society, and invitations flooded in. Her fame soon reached royal ears. Personal life Royal mistress The Prince of Wales, Albert Edward, arranged to sit next to Langtry at a dinner party given by Sir Alan Young on May 24, 1877. Although the prince was married to Princess Alexandra and had 6 children, he was a well-known philanderer. He became infatuated with Langtry, and she soon became his semi-official mistress. She was presented to the prince's mother, Queen Victoria. Eventually, a cordial relationship developed between Langtry and Princess Alexandra. The affair lasted from late 1877 to June 1880. There is an old local tradition that the Prince of Wales had the Red House constructed in 1877 in Bournemouth, then in Hampshire, as a private retreat for the couple and that he allowed Langtry to design it, but the story arises from the confusion of her name with that of Emilie Charlotte who lived there. The prince once complained to Langtry, "I've spent enough on you to build a battleship," whereupon she tartly replied, "And you've spent enough in me to float one." Some accounts say that their relationship finally cooled when she misbehaved at a dinner party. Others that she was eclipsed by the arrival of the French actress, Sarah Bernhardt, who came to London in June 1879. In July 1879, Langtry began an affair with the Earl of Shrewsbury. In January 1880, Langtry and the Earl were planning to run away together. In the autumn of 1879, rumours were published in Town Talk that her husband would divorce her and cite, among others, the Prince of Wales as co-respondent. Adolphus Rosenberg was the journalist. His writing also about Mrs. Cornwallis West resulted in her husband suing him for libel. At this point, the Prince of Wales instructed his solicitor George Lewis to sue. Rosenberg pled guilty to both of the charges brought against him and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. For some time, the prince saw little of Langtry. He remained fond of her and spoke well of her in her later career as a theatre actress. He used his power to help and encourage her. With the withdrawal of royal favour, creditors closed in. The Langtrys' finances were not equal to their lifestyle. In October 1880, Langtry sold many of her possessions to meet her debts, allowing Edward Langtry to avoid a declaration of bankruptcy. Daughter In April 1879, Langtry had an affair with Prince Louis of Battenberg, while she was involved with Arthur Clarence Jones, an old friend. In June 1880, she became pregnant. Her husband was not the father. She led Prince Louis to believe that he was. When the prince told his parents, they had him assigned to the warship HMS Inconstant. The Prince of Wales gave her a sum of money, and Langtry went into her confinement in Paris, accompanied by Arthur Jones. On March 8, 1881, she gave birth to a daughter, whom she named Jeanne-Marie. The discovery in 1978 of Langtry's passionate letters to Arthur Jones and their publication by Laura Beatty in 1999 support the idea that Jones was the father of her daughter. Prince Louis' son, Earl Mountbatten of Burma, had always maintained that his father was the father of Jeanne-Marie. In 1902, Jeanne-Marie married the Scottish politician, Sir Ian Malcolm. They had 4 children. Lady Malcolm died in 1964. Her daughter Mary Malcolm was one of the first 2 female announcers on the BBC television service from 1948 to 1956. She died on October 13, 2010 at the age of 92. Her son Ian Malcolm was the first husband of the English actress Anne Todd. Acting career and manager. In 1881, in need of money, at the suggestion of her close friend Oscar Wilde, Lily embarked upon a stage career. She first tried out for an amateur production in the Twickenham Town Hall on November 19, 1881. It was a comedy two-hander called A Fair Encounter, with Henrietta Labouchere taking the other role and coaching Langtry in her acting. Labouchere had been a professional actress before she met and married Liberal MP Henry Labouchere. Following favourable reviews of this first attempt at the stage, and with further coaching, Langtry made her debut before the London public, playing Kate Hardcastle and She Stoops to Conquer at the Haymarket Theatre in December 1881. Critical opinion was mixed, but she was a success with the public. She next performed in Ours at the same theatre. although her affair with the Prince of Wales was over, he supported her new venture by attending several of her performances and helping attract an audience. Early in 1882, Langtry quit the production team at the Haymarket and started her own company, touring the UK with various plays, still under the tutelage of Henrietta Labattiere. American impresario Henry Abbey arranged a tour in the United States for Langtry. She arrived by ship in October 1882 to be met by the press and Oscar Wilde, who was in New York on a lecture tour. Her first appearance was eagerly anticipated, but the theatre burned down the night before the opening. The show moved to another venue and opened the following week. Eventually, her production company started a coast-to-coast tour of the USA, ending in May 1883 with a fat profit €1. Before leaving New York, she had an acrimonious break with Henrietta Labattiere over Langtry's relationship with young wealthy American Frederick Gippard. Her first tour of the United States was an enormous success, which she repeated in subsequent years. While the critics generally condemned her interpretations of roles such as Pauline in The Lady of Lyons or Rosalind in As You Like It, the public loved her. After her return from New York in 1883, she registered at the Conservatoire in Paris for 6 weeks' intensive training to improve her acting technique. In 1889, she took on the part of Lady Macbeth in Shakespeare's Macbeth. In 1903, she starred in the U.S. in The Crossways, written by her in collaboration with J. Hartley Manners. She returned to the United States for tours in 1906 and again in 1912, appearing in vaudeville. She last appeared on the stage in America in 1917. Later that year, she made her final appearance in the theatre in London. From 1900 to 1903, with financial support from Edgar Cohen, Langtry became the lessee and manager of London's Imperial Theatre, opening on 21 April 1901 after an extensive refit. Thoroughbred racing, for nearly a decade, from 1882 to 1891, Langtry had a relationship with wealthy Frederick Gippard, described as a young clubman, sportsman, horse owner, and admirer of feminine beauty, both on and off the stage. Gippard's wealth was inherited. His maternal grandfather Thomas E. Davis was one of the wealthiest New York real estate owners of the period. His paternal grandfather, Dutchman Frederick Gippard, came to New York in 1800 and developed a mercantile business that expanded into banking and railroad stocks. Gippard's father died when he was 5 years old and his mother died when he was about 10. He and his sister, Isabel, were raised by a guardian, Uncle William H. Gippard. When Gippard began his relationship with Langtry he was 22 and she was 29. With Gippard, Langtry became involved in the sport of thoroughbred horse racing. In 1885, she and Gippard brought a stable of American horses to race in England. On August 13, 1888, Langtry and Gippard traveled in her private car attached to an Erie Railroad Express train bound for Chicago. Another rail car was transporting 17 of their horses when it derailed at Schuyler, Pennsylvania at 1:40 a.m. Rolling down an 80-foot embankment, it burst into flames. One person died in the fire, along with Gippard's champion Ron Ariel and 14 race horses belonging to him and Langtry. Of the 2 horses that survived the wreck was Saint Saviour, full brother to Ariel. He was named for St. Saviour's Church in Jersey. This was where Langtry's father had been rector and where she chose to be buried at her death. Speculation that Langtry and Gippard would marry never materialized, and in 1895 he married Lulu Morris of Baltimore. They divorced in 1901. In 1905 he married Marie Wilson and died in 1910. In 1889, Langtry met an eccentric young bachelor, with vast estates in Scotland, a large breeding stud, a racing stable, and more money than he knew what to do with. He was George Alexander Baird, or Squire Abington, as he came to be known. His wealth had been developed by his grandfather and 7 of his sons from coal and iron workings. Baird, unregistered trademark S. Further had died when he was a young boy, leaving him a fortune in trust. In addition, he inherited the estates of 2 equally wealthy uncles who had died childless. Langtry and Baird met at a race course when he gave her a betting tip and the stake money to place on the horse. The horse won and, At a later luncheon party, Baird also offered her the gift of a horse named Milford. She at first demurred, but others at the table advised her to accept, as this horse was a very fine prospect. The horse won several races under Langtry Euro unregistered trademark S colours. He was registered to a Euro OE Mr. Jasira Euro. Langtry became involved in a relationship with Baird, from 1891 until his death in March 1893. When Baird died, Langtry purchased two of his horses, Lady Rosebery and Studley Royal, at the estate dispersal sale. She moved her training to Sam Pickering Euro unregistered trademark S stables at Kentford House and took Regal Lodge as a residence in Kentford. Langtry found mentors in Captain James Octavius Mackell and Joe Thompson, who provided guidance on all matters related to the turf. When her trainer Pickering failed to deliver results, she moved her expanded string of 20 horses to Fred Webb at Exning. Told of a good horse for sale in Australia called Merman, she purchased it and had it shipped to England. Such shipments were risky and she had a previous bad experience with a horse arriving injured. Merman was regarded as one of the best Euro Euro. He eventually went on to win the Lewis Handicap, the Cesarewitch, Jockey Club Cup, Goodwood Stakes, Goodwood Cup, and Ascot Gold Cup. She later had a second Cesarewitch winner with Yentoy, and a third place with Raytoy. An imported horse from New Zealand called Uniform won the Lewis Handicap for her. Other trainers used by Langtry were Jack Robinson, who trained at Fox Hill, in Wiltshire, and a very young Fred Darling whose first big success was Yentoy's 1908 Cesarewitch. Langtry owned a stud at Gaisley, Newmarket. This venture was not a success, and after a few years, she gave up attempts to breed bloodstock. Before moving to Monaco, Langtry sold Regal Lodge and all her horse racing interests. Regal Lodge had received many celebrated guests, not least the Prince of Wales. William Ewart Gladstone. During her stage career, Langtry became friendly with William Ewart Gladstone, who was the British Prime Minister on 4 occasions during the reign of Queen Victoria. In her memoirs, Langtry says that she first met Gladstone when she was posing for her portrait at Millet's studio. They were later friends and he became a mentor to her. He told her, "In your professional career, you will receive attacks, personal and critical, just and unjust. Bear them, never reply, and, above all, never rush into print to explain or defend yourself." In 1925, Captain Peter Emmanuel Wright published a book called Portraits and Criticisms. In it he claimed that Gladstone had numerous extramarital affairs, including one with Langtry. Gladstone Euro unregistered trademark S son Herbert Gladstone wrote a letter calling Wright a liar, a coward and a fool. Wright then sued him. During the trial, a telegram, sent by Langtry from Monte Carlo, was read out in court saying, "I strongly repudiate the slanderous accusations of Peter Wright." The jury found against Wright, saying that the gist of the defendant's letter of July 27 was true, and that the evidence vindicated the high moral standards of the late William E. Gladstone. American citizenship. In 1897, during her travels in the United States, Langtry became an American citizen. She divorced her husband Edward Langtry the same year in Lakeport, California. He died a few months later following an accident. A letter of condolence later written by Langtry to another widow reads in part, "I too have lost a husband, but alas, it was no great loss." In 1888, Langtry purchased a winery with an area of 4,200 acres in Lake County, California, which produced red wine. She sold it in 1906. Bearing the Langtry Farms name, the winery and vineyard are still in operation in Middletown, California. Hugo Gerald de Bathe. After the divorce from her husband, Langtry was linked in the popular press to Prince Louis Esterhazy. They shared time together and both had an interest in horse racing. However, in 1899, she married 28-year-old Hugo Gerald de Bathe, son of Sir Henry de Bathe, 4th Baronet and Charlotte Clare. Hugo's parents had initially not married, due to objections from the de Bathe family. They lived together and 7 of their children were born out of wedlock. They married after the death of Sir Henry's father in 1870, and Hugo was their first son born in wedlock, making him heir to the baronetcy. The wedding between Langtry and Hugo de Bathe took place in St Saviour Unregistered Trademark S Church, Jersey, on August 27, 1899, with Langtry's daughter being the only other person present, apart from the officials. Coincidentally, this was the same day that Langtry's horse, Merman, won the Goodwood Cup. In December of that year, de Bathe volunteered to join the British forces fighting the Boer War in South Africa, and he was assigned to the Roberta Unregistered Trademark S Horse-Mounted Brigade as a lieutenant. He had previous military experience with the Gloucestershire Regiment as a sub-lieutenant. In 1907 Hugo's father died and he became the 5th Baronet, and Langtry became Lady de Bathe. Final days. During her final years, Langtry resided in Monaco whilst her husband, Hugo de Bathe, lived in Vence, Alpes Maritimes. The two saw one another at social gatherings or in brief private encounters. During WWI, Hugo de Bathe was an ambulance driver for the French Red Cross. After Langtry's death, he remarried on November 26, 1931 in Corsica, to a Danish lady called Deborah Warschauska-Nias. Langtry's closest companion during her time in Monaco was her friend, Matilda Marie Pete, the widow of her butler. Pete was at Langtry's side during the final days of her life as she died of pneumonia in Monte Carlo. She was one of the beneficiaries in Langtry's will, being left a £10,000, the villa known as Lily's Monaco, clothes, and Langtry's motor car. Langtry died in Monaco at dawn February 12, 1929. She had asked to be buried in her parents' tomb at St Saviour's Church in Jersey. Due to blizzards, transport was delayed. Finally, her body was taken to St Malo and across to Jersey on February 22 on the steamer St Briac. Her coffin lay in St Saviour's overnight surrounded by flowers, and she was buried on the afternoon of February 23. Pictures of the funeral may be viewed at http://www.theaslandwiki.org. Lillie Langtry. Cultural influence and portrayals. Langtry used her high public profile to endorse commercial products such as cosmetics and soap, an early example of celebrity endorsement. She used her famous ivory complexion to generate income, being the first woman to endorse a commercial product when she advertised Pears soap. Scholars believe the fictitious Irene Adler in A Scandal in Bohemia, the first Sherlock Holmes short story, is based on Langtry. Adler outwits the private investigator in the story when he seeks an incriminating photograph of her and a European monarch. In the 1944 Universal film The Scarlet Claw, Lillian Gentry, the initial murder victim, wife of Lord William Penrose and former actress, is an oblique reference to Langtry. Langtry's life story has been portrayed in film numerous times. Lillian Bond played her in The Westerner, and Ava Gardner in The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. Judge Roy Bean, a famous American frontier admirer, was played by Walter Brennan in the former and Paul Newman in the latter film, both times as a man with a lifelong obsession with the beauty. In 1967, The Who released pictures of Lily as a single. According to Pete Townshend, the song was merely a ditty about masturbation and the importance of it to a young man. It's all about a boy who can't sleep at night, so his dad gives him some dirty pictures to look at. Then he falls in love with the girl in the pictures, which is too bad because she is dead. Lillie Langtry, the music hall star, died in 1929, the year referred to in the song. In 1978, Langtry's story was dramatized by London Weekend Television and produced as Lily, starring Francesca Annis in the title role. Annis had previously played Langtry in 2 episodes of ATV's Edward VII. Jenny Seagrove played her in the 1991 made-for-television film Incident at Victoria Falls. A gothic, highly fictional version of Langtry was performed by Stacey Hajduk in the 1996 television series Kindred, The Embraced. In the series, Langtry was portrayed as the immortal leader of a sect of vampires living in the present day. Langtry is a featured character in the tongue-in-cheek Western novel, Slocum and the Jersey Lily by Jake Logan. She figures prominently in Death at Epsom Downs by Robin Page, the pseudonym of Bill and Susan Wittig Albert, who wrote a series of Victorian novels based on historic people. Langtry is a featured character in the fictional The Flashman Papers novels of acclaimed writer George MacDonald Fraser, in which she is noted as a former lover of arch-cad Harry Flashman. Flashman describes her as one of his few true loves. Langtry is used as a touchstone for old-fashioned manners in Preston Sturges's comedy The Lady Eve, in a scene where a corpulent woman drops a handkerchief on the floor and the hero ignores it. Jean begins to describe, comment, and anticipate the events that we see reflected in her hand mirror. Jean says, "The dropped kerchief. That hasn't been used since Lillie Langtry. You'll have to pick it up yourself, madam. It's a shame, but he doesn't care for the flesh, he'll never see it." The song Lily Langtry is included in a few albums by the folk group, New Christy Minstrels. A British feature film used the song title Pictures of Lily in 2011. In The Simpsons episode, Burns Air, the theatre in which the auditions are held on Burns' estate is called the Lillie Langtry Theatre. Langtry is a featured character in the play Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the Jersey Lily by Katie Forget. In this work, she is blackmailed over her past relationship with the Prince of Wales, with intimate letters as proof. She, along with friend Oscar Wilde, employ Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson to investigate the matter. Places connected with Lillie Langtry: when first married, Edward and Lily Langtry had a property called Cliff Lodge in Southampton. Lily Langtry lived at 21 Pont Street, London from 1892 to 1897. Although from 1895 the building was operated as the Cadogan Hotel, she would stay in her former bedroom there. A blue plaque on the hotel commemorates this, and the hotel's restaurant is named Langtry's in her honour. While she was Edward VII's mistress, Lily Langtry frequently performed at the in-house theatre of a hotel on 1/9 Inverness Terrace, in Bayswater, on the north side of Hyde Park, London W2. The in-house theatre is known as Lily's Theatre. A Grade II listed building, the hotel was originally built by Ritz architects Charles Mewar and Arthur Davis. It continues to function as a hotel today. Its in-house theatre continues as the venue for nightly cabaret-style performances. The hotel is now named the Grand Royal London Hyde Park, part of the Shaftesbury Hotels Company. Langtry, Texas, founded by Judge Roy Bean, is named after her. In addition, the saloon The Jersey Lily, which served as the judge's courthouse, was named for her. From about 1886 to 1894 she owned a house in New York at 362 West 23rd Street, a gift from Frederick Gippard. Langtry had a dwelling in Alexandra Road called Leighton House, possibly demolished in the 1970s to make way for the Alexandra Road estate. She is remembered in the area in the name of Langtry Walk and a local pub. There is a pub named after her on the Lily Road, Kensington, London, near West Brompton Tube Station. Langtry was a cousin of local politician Philip Le Breton, pioneer for the preservation of Hampstead Heath. Steam yacht White Lady: Langtry owned a luxury steam auxiliary yacht called White Lady from 1891 to 1897. The yacht was built in 1891 for Lord Asburton by Ramage and Ferguson of Leith from a design by W.C. Story. She had 3 masts, was 204 feet in length and 27 inches breadth and was powered by a 142-horsepower steam engine. She had originally been named Lady Mabel. In 1893 Ogden Giolet leased the vessel from Langtry and used it until his death in 1897. It was sold at auction to John Lawson Johnston, the inventor of Bovril. He owned it until his death on board in Cannes, France in 1900. Indiana, 1902/3. The yacht was recorded in the Lloyd's Yacht Register as being owned by shipbuilder William Criswell Gray, Tunstall Manor, West Hartlepool, and remained so until 1915. Following this the Lloyd's Register records that she became adapted as French trawler La Champagne based in Far Copyright Camp. She was broken up in 1935. Bibliography: Langtry, Lily, The Days I Knew, 1925. See also, Academy of Music Riviera Theatre, English Royal Mistress. References. External links: Lily Langtry Museum on the Internet, Lily Langtry Biography, Lily Langtry at the Internet Broadway Database, Lily Langtry at the Internet Broadway Database, Lillie Langtry at the Internet Movie Database, History of East Cliff, article on professional beauties of the Victorian era.